Greetings, sexy sociologists. Today's topic is couples. I will ask you to bear in mind that the textbook mostly looks at the nuclear family, couples in that sort of area, which if you look at last week, a nuclear family is basically man, woman, child. Right, let's get to it. So the first guy I want to talk about is obviously Parsons, the king of functionalism, and his idea of a functionist model structure of couples and family and what that's meant to look like. Parsons says there's a clear division between man and woman. The men are the breadwinners. It is their responsibility to go out and get money to support the family. And then we see the wives, the woman being the perfect female companion for their man, doing all the cleaning, all the housework, and of course all the childcare. Parsons says this is based on biological differences. Men are naturally suited to go out and do all the man stuff, and all the women are naturally suited to stay at home and do all the womanly feminine stuff. And from this, Parsons argues that this doesn't just benefit men and women, it also benefits society and how it functions. Having men have their role, women have their role, society roles sorted out. No arguments there. Weaknesses, bitches. So the weaknesses to this, if you haven't noticed by my tone of voice already, it is quite outdated of how the society works now. I mean, I'm sure feminism will have a lot to say about this. One might argue this structure only benefits men, really. I mean, how does this benefit women in the slightest, where we are just gonna sit at home and watch the children, where men go out, do what they do with the work and the jobs, and just us cleaning and children? No. That is not benefiting women, that is only benefiting men, and that is not right. Also, there is some evidence against this. Young and Wilmot found that some men were taking a greater leap to try and help out with childcare and housework, but I'll come on to Young and Wilmot a little bit later on. Moving on from Parsons, we're going to look at joint and segregated marital roles, and these are two types of roles that Elizabeth Bott came up with when she was doing all her sociology research. A joint role is where a married couple shares in domestic tasks and share responsibilities and stuff, or a segregated role is where husband has his role and wife has her role. Role is separated, it is segregated from each other, and it's all different and blah 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 blah. Young and Wilmot, the lovely fellows we were talking about just a moment ago, contributed to this discussion of joint and segregated roles. In the 1950s, they did research to show that most people were in like a segregated role, say, and they found that men were the breadwinners, that men were the ones that went out and got a job, and they spent their leisure time with their work friends and not really with their wives and stuff, while the women stayed at home, children, domestic stuff. And because it was the 1950s, this work was carried out, you can easily argue it was outdated. For 20 years along the line, Young and Wilmot did this again. They, in the 1970s, carried out research within like couples of society in London to see whether or not things have changed, and you know what? They did, kind of. They saw what they referred to as the symmetrical family and taking a march of progress. They could generally see a gradual improvement, especially with younger couples. They found younger couples leant towards the more joint role, academic, like they saw that men were helping out more with housework and childcare and stuff, and not spending all their leisure time with their work friends, and actually spent time with wife, children, happy family. Now we're going to talk about feminism. Yes. And household work. Bear in mind there are different strands of feminism. Not all feminists are the same, and I will make a separate video explaining this because there are so many people who think all feminists are the same, that there is just feminists who want to chop balls off, but there's not. There's many strands of feminism, which I will discuss maybe in another random video, but let's get to the feminist opinion of housework. Some feminists believe the march of progress is not a thing. It has happened. There has not been as much change as there should be, and inequality still derives from the patriarchy, which is where men are on top of society. Basically, if you need to learn more about the patriarchy, log on to Tumblr. Now we're going to talk about Anne Oakley, and she criticised Young and Wilmot's view, arguing that their claim is very much exaggerated. Their march of progress is like, what, you're exaggerating the facts, guys. I mean, yes, there has been little change, but not much. And she proved this by saying that in the time of her research in 1974, which is around the same time Young and Wilmot saw the change in couples, they found out that only 15% of husbands actually did a high level of housework, and only 26% did a high level of childcare, which, fair enough, that's still quite a lot compared to the 1950s, one might argue, but that is still a very, very low percentage. For the joint view, surely it should be 50-50 from both sides, from men and women, when it comes to housework and childcare. In her own research, she found some evidence for the idea that are helping husbands, helping out, but she didn't find enough evidence to prove the symmetrical family, as I was talking about, like roles similar and symmetrical in the matters of family life. And she found that most men who did help out only helped out in the fun stuff, like taking their kids to like a park or something, happy father, son, daughter activities, whilst it was the woman who looked after and maintained the child's primary socialisation and actually looked after the child and cared about their well-being. And about 9 years later, in 1983, Mary Bolton emphasised this and also found this and researched that fewer than 20% of men actually helped out with the childcare and such, which basically proves Oakley's point that there hasn't been much change in the roles of women at that time and during that research. Oh dear. Moving on from that, Ward and Hetherington, they found that like sex typing and like couple roles, individual roles were still a thing. They found that women were 30 times more likely to do the washing, and found that most men would only do something like the washing up if their domestic partner was not around, so they would only do it if the wife wasn't there to do it for them. Time to do my manly duties of today. There's a non-washed up mug on my desk. Susan isn't here to clean it up. What do I do? What do I do? Though they did find attitude changes in young couples, so as we go on to generations and generations, there have been attitude changes about this matter, and that men are more willing to help out with housework. Right, we've looked at the couple's roles, we looked at housework, and now we're going to look at the impact on housework with paid work. Like, how does paid work impact housework and gender roles and stuff? Man Yi Han found that women were less likely to do housework the more they got paid. He researched it, and around every £10,000 a woman makes, she does 2 hours less housework a week, which is, yeah, that's his research. £10,000 a year, I think that was. Yeah, annual income. I do not know why I'm doing this, but it is quite fun. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I hope you're learning something, because I sure am. I am learning that I shouldn't be on the internet. Okay, fun name I can't pronounce. Grashani. Oh, the names will be up anyway. Grashani in 1994, and his research basically showed wives who are unemployed did about 83% of the housework. He found that part-time did 82%, and he found that full-time women at work only did 73% of the housework. I say only, that's still a great deal, but as you can see, the more they work, the less they do. He says that social values are gradually adapting to accept this, that women are doing less housework the more they work, because they are very busy people, let me tell you. But he still argued that although this adaptation is taking place, men are mostly doing DIY stuff and the manly jobs around the house. Rosemary Crompton in 1997 agreed with this view that as women worked more, they did less housework, but worded it different and sort of interpreted the information to mean something slightly different, which is that when women working power went up, men's household work also increased. She also argued a lot about the pay gap, but I am not discussing that in this video because that is a whole video in itself. Okay, so now we're moving on to the commercialization of housework. What does that mean? What is this about? Commercialization, the market, something? I don't know. But Silver and Skohurst, I'm not good with names, it's on the board. These two lovely people look at the economic, whatever you say, economic development in reducing women's burden when it comes to the housework. What does this mean? They argue housework has been commercialised, so this is basically where in the market there are many things to help women do housework and reduce the burden. For examples, ready meals. You don't have to cook big meals anymore. Come ready. Freezers, microwave ovens, there to store food and cook food faster. And all these little things that now we take for granted that help work around the house. And from this they argue with women working, they can afford these appliances and stuff to help them around the house, and they conclude from this that the burden of housework has decreased. They even go far to say that with all these commercializations and things to help out women with housework, that is death of housewives. But what about poor women? What about poor families who cannot afford these things? That is not equality, that is not fair on them. You see all these rich people with like all the cool stuff that help out with housework, but what about the poor people, guys? And now we're going to talk about the dual burden. This is where women have to do paid work but also housework at the same time. It just becomes jumbled up and a bit of a burden. That's why they call it a dual burden, obviously. The basics of this is that some people, like feminists and other people, see little evidence of this new man, this perfect man helping out with housework, super dad, Superman helping out with housework and childcare and stuff, and they see a dual burden of paid work and housework, and some people argue this benefits men because women still do most of the housework but also get paid doing a job as well. So some feminists argues this actually benefits patriarchy in society, but I'm not gonna go much into that because feminism is a big topic that once again serves a whole video in itself. And Ferry and Smith in 1996 argued that the increase in women and their employment has not made very much impact on the amount of housework they do. They still do the majority of the housework and domestic divisions in the household. I need to read the numbers, otherwise I will get the numbers wrong. Their research in 1996, they interviewed 1,583 33-year-old fathers and mothers and found that only 4% of the fathers in that massive group helped out like to a decent standard of childcare. I mean, 4%. Really? Really? Following on from this, even when the woman is working and men are unemployed, it's still the same. Some sociologists, like Morris in 1990, found that when men lost this masculine role, their manly role, they tried their best to avoid this feminine womanly role to protect their manhood. But there has been research after that to show that there has been an increase, so one could argue that it is a quite outdated research, and other research has been made to show otherwise, that there has been a steady increase. And along with this dual burden, some people have access to childcare to help out when women has work and also childcare. Some people can just send their children off to like playgroup or kindergarten or like yeah, just childcare places, nurseries and stuff, but a problem with this is that working class people can't do that because they do not have the money and power to do so. Gregson and Lowe in 1994 said that working class couples and families are able to hire nannies and cleaners, etc. to help out with the house and childcare and stuff, whilst working class people are the nannies, are the cleaners, because they have no choice in the matter, and they are the ones who are faced with this dual burden because they are the ones who have to work, otherwise their children won't get fed, their children will have little in their lives because working class people are generally poor and they don't have enough money to help because society doesn't help them, and all is bad with the world when it comes to being working class. Not all topics I have talked about have been evaluated, so that is part of your homework, to evaluate some of the ideas and theories I have talked about. I need to talk to you guys quickly about the structure of how I want to do things. I think setting myself one video a week starting off with was a bit of a stretch because, as you saw, as you heard, I had to do a lot of research and I like double and triple checked all this research, and it was a bit hard to do over the course of 2 weeks, let alone 1 week. So what my plan is to make these videos maybe once every 2 weeks. Let's see how that works. Also, you guys have to comment about this because I don't know. Do you want me to do just family and household, or do you want me to do family and household, something else, like a random video about a random aspect of society, family, household, random video, family, like, do you want there to be some structure where I don't talk about family and household every video for the next billion weeks? Yeah. Does that make sense? I don't know, I'm a bit of a mess. Let me know what else you want to see on this channel, basically. My last video is in the description, along with my main channel, Rach Arnold, which I post about my life normally, not just gobbledygook about sociology. And like this video if you enjoyed it. I hope you have. I hope you learned something, and I hope you caught up. I hope you understood anything of what I said, because I cannot remember a thing that I've said. Yeah, and that's about it. I will stop talking now because this video is very, very long and I need to edit it, sadly. And I will see you guys soon for the next one, which will be on childhood. See you next time to discuss childhood. Bye guys.